What's up, the old school stereo community? I have a treat for you today. That's right, hidden underneath this towel, fixing ready to show you. Are you ready is the question. Well, let's give you a little tease. Ooh, what's that? See, Wilson audio sticker. Let's go ahead and pull it off and show you what we have here today. I've been waiting for a while to show you guys this, and I'm super excited to show it to you today. Orion Concept amplifiers. We have two. We also have the digital EQ and digital to analog converter. Now let's start with the amplifiers. We have the Concept 97.1. Now there's no dot or dash there. So is it 97.1, 97-1, 97-1? I don't know. I've kind of seen it all different ways shown on the internet. But these are from the year 1997 and were a very special edition of products from Orion. Now again, 2 amps and an EQ here, but there are more. There are 6.5-inch speakers as well. I don't have the speakers. I believe they're 98.1 is what those are called. I'll try to leave a picture so you guys can see what the speakers look like. But I've been told that they're very impressive with the design and the look and the aesthetics and build quality and all that. Too bad I don't have any to show you. But I do have these 3, so let's start to talk about them here. First, I'm just going to pan here in the beautifulness of the aluminum, raw aluminum finish on these. Very, very cool. Of course, you're seeing a lot of reflections from my overhead lights. Unfortunately, it is raining outside, so I can't have them outside and show you what they look like outside, but they are very, very unique, very nice looking amplifiers for the time frame. And again, we'll start here with the first model, the 97.1. And this is during the time when Orion had what they called the pop top models, where it had this little centerpiece that would come out. And as of most of these amps, people had to use Velcro because they kept losing these little pins. They're really hard to operate the pins. You have to push in from the side here with like a screwdriver to pop the pin out. They're really hard to work, and they also rattle quite a bit, which can be a problem. This amp is equipped with 2 factory installed DVX2 crossover modules. The DVX2 is an extremely flexible crossover module that can perform many different crossover functions. Listed are the basic functions of the module: 12 dB per octave high pass or low pass, 24 dB per octave high pass or low pass when crossovers are set to the same frequency, 12 dB octave bandpass operation, or the mode where the crossover 1 can be independently routed out through the aux output to an external amplifier. This applies only when installed in the module slots for channels 1 and 2. Overall, the crossovers are flexible but kind of quirky. Pretty cool. Now this is a 4-channel amp, but the weird thing about it is 2 channels are 50 watts by 2 with the standard XTR series or Black series Orion amp, which is not high current. And then the other 2 channels are 25 by 2, but it is high current, like the 225 HCCA. So you have a high current section, you have a high powered section. It's designed to be able to use it, kind of with your mids and highs, and then you can lower down the ohm load of your subs and get more power out of the subsection. So pretty cool. I'll move around here to this end so we can see it. We do have the DIN input here. We have RCA ends and a pass-through as well. Gain controls, of course, made in the USA. There's a little LED power light there. And once again, it had a place we could stick a screwdriver in to get the pop pin to take that pop top part off. But very cool. I also have some gut shots I will show you here before we move to the next item in the list. But before we do that, I do want to show you this end. And this is the time frame when Orion had the pull-out plugs, the Weco style plugs, which were shared with some of the PPI amps at the time, as many of you know. So we've got one here for power and ground. Power and ground accepts up to 8 gauge. Then we have a 5-position and a 4-position plug here. The 5-position plug is for channels 3 and 4. It also has a remote sensor. And then we have the other one, which includes the front 2 channels. I'm not a big fan of these style connectors. The speaker connectors may fit 12 gauge, but really fit like 14 and 16 gauge. We also have 2 40 amp ATC style fuses there for the both amplifier sections. This finish with this, kind of raw aluminum, very, very nice. That's the Concept 97.1. Again, I'll show you the gut shots here, and then we'll move on to the next model. And here's the gut shot I promised. Again, this amplifier does include like 2 different amplifiers, the XTR 250 as well as the 225 HCCA, but as you can see, they're not kind of separate boards here. They've kind of put the amplifier kind of together. So it's not like you just see the 2 separate boards laid out here. There are 2 different power supplies though, one for each section. Also, we have all the capacitors and everything here internally. According to Orion, the 150 watt dual supply 4-channel amplifier has more transistors than other manufacturers' amplifiers rated over 1,000 watts. This type of overbuilding gives the 97.1 up to 3 dB of dynamic headroom. The supply that drives channels 1 and 2 optimize the output section for 4 ohm impedance, like satellites or single subwoofer applications, while channels 3 and 4 optimize for impedance as low as half an ohm in stereo or 1 ohm in mono. It's also important to mention Orion had an HCCA 150, which is the same as the Concept 97.1, just red in color, and didn't say anything about it being special, but it's actually the exact same layout of amplifier. So staying in line with the number, we have the 97.2 Concept, which just says digital here. This is the 30-band equalizers, digital equalizer, and it also has the digital to analog converter. It has the little LCD screen here, has clip lights here, has the buttons to switch between the modes. But let me turn it around so we can get a better look at all the inputs on here. And you can see very cool here. We have these mini XLRs, which Orion used for a while. Input adjustments here for left and right. Of course, we have analog input and analog output. We have more balanced. Those are outputs. Now, what it said in the manual is you can only use the RCAs or the balance. You can't use them both at the same time, so you have to choose. But this one also has coaxial digital in and out. So very cool. In addition to Toslink, which optical is what we call that. I believe Sony is the one that called it Toslink. But anyway, it has that as well. And you have the little buttons here to select whether you're going to do coaxial or Toslink or optical digital. Then we have another Weco plug there for the remote, ground, and 12 volt. And we have a communications port. Now this is an RJ11 style port, which had a breakout connector that went into a serial port that was designed to use with a Windows computer. Now at the time this came out, that would have been Windows 95. So definitely old school, definitely cool again with the design of this raw aluminum finish. And I will fire it up in a future video so we can see what it looks like. And there's the back panel, just super cool. Now this one does have the original box as well as the owner's manual. And speaking of the owner's manual, I'll go here to the back of it and we can see some of the specs of this. Digital equalization, 30 bands for left and right channels. It has 4 preset work zones. There's a computer interface. It is IBM computer compatible, and it has an optional remote interface, future release. I don't know if they ever came out with that. Somebody can comment below to let me know. Analog section, digital section, the power supply. Has a C-Lock anti-jitter reduction circuit. So all kind of cool stuff. The analog section there talks about the no zero crossover distortion. Now, was that 2 negatives? No zero crossover distortion. Digital de-emphasis, wide range, 18 dB DA converter, RCA and balanced outputs, 9 volts RMS per phase, signal to noise ratio greater than 100 dB. So there's the other features and the size. It says approximately, what is that on the whole width? 11.75 by 8.75 by about, was it 2 inches for the height. So again, this came with the original box, which is so cool. It's always cool to have original boxes for your car stereo gear, especially car stereo gear that's closing in on 30 years old. But there is the Concept 97.2, the digital EQ and digital to analog converter. Super, super cool. Well, now we'll move on to the big dog. That's right, the Concept 97.3. And here it is, the big Orion amp. This is the same size as the Beast, the XTR 2250, as well as the 2100 HCCA. This one is branded the Concept 97.3. Again, no dots, no dashes. It is a special edition. Now I'm going to leave some photos in this video that show an interview of an Orion marketing guy back in the 90s, the late 90s, and he talks about this, and he says 150 of these were made and 100 were sold. I tend to doubt that. I think they made a lot more than that because I've seen a lot of these over the years, and it makes me think they're definitely more than they're leading on. But you can see the 4-inch fan there in the center. Again, you see the raw aluminum finish. Very, very nice. This one's in very, very good condition. I'd call it maybe a 9 out of 10. Very few scratches on it. And let me turn it around a little bit here so we can see the end plate. And here on one end, well, of course, we see the Made in the USA. We have the mono button, which you don't really have to push that. The only thing that does is sums up the RCAs together because the amp is bridgeable without using the button. Also the EQ button, which does boost the bass as well as the treble. Then we have the gain adjustment there. And the LEDs, we have peak LEDs and we have power LED. Left and right RCAs, of course. Then we have the DIN input, which Orion and Precision Power and some other companies back in the day like to use that. But as you see, there's no digital interface. There's no mini XLRs on this one. Same with the other Concept amps. So you weren't able to, it's kind of odd, right? They would have these amps and they would have the balanced outputs on the EQ, but no balanced inputs on the amp. So not really sure, maybe a former Orion employee, Jack Callie or somebody else can tell me why that is the case. I need to clarify, the 8-pin DIN connector on the end actually is balanced, so you could have an adapter that went from mini XLR to DIN and that would give you a balanced input. It just is kind of weird that it doesn't have the same style connectors as the EQ. But on this end, we just have the standard Molex plug, which does the speaker outputs as well as the turn on. And then we have the battery, plus and minus, to connect up, to your electrical system, feed it the juice it needs. This amp is pretty big. For those who don't know how big these are, they're approximately 24 inches in length. They're pretty tall here, about 3 inches in height and about 7 or 8 inches in length. So not a small amplifier. You definitely have to have the trunk space available to use an amplifier like this. As for the ratings on the Concept 97.3, very, very odd. And again, this goes back to the article from the Auto Sound and Security where the marketing guy from Orion talks about it. And basically, they marketed this as a 0.5 watt by 2 amp at 4 ohms. And then said it would go all the way down to a crazy like 0.00067 ohms or something. It would do 1,024 watts. So overall, the power was supposed to be as much as the XTR 2250, but supposed to be able to do it really a low ohm load. The reality of it is this is not a high current amp. This is the same as an XTR 2250. It is high voltage. It's only designed for 2 ohm stereo, 4 ohm stereo, or 4 ohms bridge mono. You cannot use it at 2 ohms bridge mono. You can't use it 1 ohm bridge mono. back in the day, a lot of dealers did that when they heard about, you know, how this thing could handle super low impedances and all that, and they hook up a bunch of subs to it and they blow the amps up. And from the dealers that I've talked to and read about online, a lot of them said the Orion wasn't really forthcoming even with them to let them know that, hey, this is just a joke, you know, this is not really a low power amp, high current. It's really just a high powered amplifier, same as the XTR 2250, just in a really slick heatsink with a special edition, you know, limited, only a few of these. We don't know how many. Again, Jack Callie or somebody else at Orion or used to work at Orion, if you know how many of these were actually made, please let us know, because I think we're all curious. But I definitely think that 100 or 150 that they mentioned is way low. Well, there you have my real quick, or maybe not so quick, kind of overview of the Orion concept series of amplifiers as well as EQ. Again, from 1997. Special edition model, so cool. And if you'd like to see more about these, I'm actually making a video of the big dog here, the Concept 97.3, on my main channel, Williston Audio Lab. So make sure you are subscribed to Williston Audio Labs on YouTube, and you will see that one come across. We're going to amp dyno test it. We're also going to talk about the cheater amps at the time and how the concept kind of fit into the cheater amps. Hopefully pretty interesting information for you guys. But later in the future, we'll also test this one. Both of these were completely gone through by Sean King, my friend and technician, and got them all going and recapped and all that good stuff. So they are good to go for dyno testing. So let me know below if you ever had any of these, or you've ever seen them before, or you know anything about them. You know, more information we can gather on these, the better. But I'm pretty excited to show them to you guys, and hope you appreciate this video. Again, we will show tests of this one and this one in the future. So let me know what you think. Till next time, Big D, I'm out of here.